very, very germane to academic research. And it is the soul of academic research because it determines the quality of our findings in academic research. In this our topic, there are about 3 concepts that are important. We have academic research, we have research methodology, and I also brought in research method. So let's take the concept one by one. Academic research. Academic research is a systematic process of studying a research problem or situation. And the intention of carrying out academic research is to be able to identify facts that will help us to solve a particular problem or to deal with a particular situation. Academic research aims to generate new knowledge that help us to develop or to improve our social development. And it tries to answer questions that we have about the problems that is confronting us in the world. Besides academic research, there's the professional research. The professional research may not be as rigorous, may not be as scientific as academic research. So it's different from academic research, but suffices to know that research can be academic and it can be professional. So what's the importance of academic research? Major importance is that it facilitates learning. Everybody that is involved in any kind of academic activity does research, whether you're undergraduate, you're a postgraduate, whether master's or PhD, you will carry out academic research. So it facilitates the learning process. Also, it helps us to highlight problems. We know that there are problems in the society. And for you to carry out any form of academic research, you should be able to identify a particular problem that you want to solve. So without a problem, you will not have a justification for carrying out your academic research. So it highlights problem and it also leads to personal growth of the students. If you don't carry out research, you are not likely to graduate, so you cannot grow as a student. So academic research permits the student to grow, it permits the student to complete their research. That's why at the end of every program, when you carry out your research, you say impartial fulfillment for the award of BSc or MSc or PhD or whatever degree you want to achieve. It is academic research that terminates the program for you and is an important component of any program that you want to do. Next slide, please. So in this slide, I briefly enumerate the difference between academic and professional research. So academic research focuses on new discoveries for the academic or the scientific community. Whereas for professional research, it is geared towards solving a specific problem for an organization or a company or its clients. Academic research focuses on research objectives and questions that arise from independent researchers. Whereas for professional research, it's defined as work carried out to achieve the objective of an organization. And it focuses on the research objective that arises from the requirement of that organization. Maybe an organization wants to increase its sales. It can commission a research that will be focused on how to increase the sales of that particular organization. Then also, academic research focuses on formal, scientific, and systematic procedures to discover answers and to prove or to reject existing theories. Whereas for professional research, they may use or they may not use formal, scientific, or systematic procedures. It is not based on theory most of the time, and it may not require any representative sample. So it is not as rigorous as scientific research. So the second concept in our topic is research methodology. When we talk about research methodology, we are referring to the systematic and the scientific approach that we use to collect or to conduct our research, to investigate our problems, to gather our data and information that we need for our research. It involves the techniques and procedures that we use to identify, to collect, analyze, and interpret our data in order to answer our research question or to solve our research problem. So it's a gamut of the procedures that we follow in carrying out our research activities. So research methodology are philosophical and they are theoretical frameworks that guide the research process. So we want to see what's the philosophical leaning of your research, what's the theoretical framework that guides your research. All these things come together to form what we call research methodology. So research methodology versus research method. Some people use the two terms interchangeably, but technically they are different. But in some texts, you see them being used interchangeably. So the difference is one, research methodology refers to the philosophical and the theoretical frameworks that guide the research process, whereas research method refers to the techniques and the procedure that are used to collect the data and analyze data. So research method is smaller compared to research methodology. Research method is a subset of research methodology. Research methodology is concerned with the underlying principles and assumptions of the research, whereas research method is concerned with the practical aspects of the research. That is, what did you do? Research methodology provides a rationale for why certain research methods are used. Whereas for research method, you just tell us the specific steps that you undertake to conduct the research. Also, research methodology is broader in scope and it involves understanding the overall approach to the research, whereas research method is narrower in scope and it focuses on specific techniques and tools that you use in the research. Research methodology is also concerned with identifying research questions, defining the research problems, and formulating hypotheses, whereas research method is just concerned with collecting data, analyzing data, and interpreting results. So these are some of the differences between research methodology and then the research techniques. So now what do we do in research methodology? Can you go to the next slide, please? Zainab, the next slide. Zainab. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So what do we do in research? Why do we need research methodology? We need research methodology for various reasons. Like we have said, research methodology lends credence to what we are doing. So, sorry. Research methodology is needed because it provides a systematic and structured approach to our research. Without research methodology, we will not have that structure in place. We will not be able to identify that structure that is useful. So it provides us with the systematic structure and the systematic and the structured approach to our research. Not only that, research methodology also aims to ensure objectivity in the research process, which means that your research findings are based on evidence and not influenced by personal bias or subjective opinions. So when you have your research methodology in place, whoever is reading your research output will know that there's objectivity in what you have done, because you will have stated the procedures that you adopt in carrying out every step. So it makes it very clear to the reader that your work is based on objective research and is based on evidence and is not influenced by personal bias. Also, research methodology permits replicability. When you go, What happened? Okay. So research methodology allows other researchers to be able to replicate what you have done, because your research methodology will document the steps you have taken. Because it has documented it, other researchers coming up can replicate. They can use the same procedure to carry out the same research, either in another location or to even reaffirm what you have done. So in essential, research methodology allows for validating of your research findings and ensures their accuracy. Also, research methodology aims to ensure that the research findings are reliable, which means they are consistent and that they can be dependent upon. Research methodology also ensures that the research findings are valid, which means that they are accurate. They are reflecting the research questions and the hypothesis that is being tested. Also, research methodology ensures efficiency. It gives you structured and efficient way of conducting the research, which helps you to save time and resources. Also, it allows for flexibility. It allows you to make use of the most appropriate research methods and techniques based on your research question, based on data availability and other relevant factors. Then, lastly, research methodology gives scope for innovation. It gives room for creativity in designing your research studies and developing new research techniques. So these are the reasons why we need research methodology. So in your research methodology, what do you now need to put in place? What are the things that you need to document in your research methodology? As a general plan, your research methodology should include the following. 1, your research method. 2, you have to document your research method. And when we talk about your research method, we are going to start by telling us what's the objective of your studies. How do you want to generate your data? What techniques are you going to use to generate your data? What is the reason for choosing those techniques? What are the instruments for data collections? What are the instruments or the method of analyzing the data? Then what will you do with your results? Are you going to discuss your results with your participants? Are you going to publish your results in what journal? All these things have to be provided in your research methodology. What advice do you have for your readers? How will your sampling process go? Any practical limitations? Any ethical issues? All these things will be documented in your research methodology. So by documenting it in your research methodology, you see that it will give you a framework, a guidance for what you want to do. So the next question is, what time do you write your research methodology? As an academic researcher, immediately you finish your proposal, the next thing is to do your research methodology, because it is that research methodology that will be guiding you in whatever steps you want to take. So research methodology is highly germane to academic research. So for anybody in the academic community, whether you are a student or you are a lecturer, you must have your research methodology. For lecturers, sometimes you may not document it elaborately, but you have to jot it down somewhere, because without your research methodology, you are likely to derail. So you need to jot your research methodology down. But as a student, in fact, in some schools, research methodology takes a chapter of the project or thesis or dissertation, because your supervisor or advisor want to see that you actually know what you want to do. And it is that research methodology that we tell the supervisor or the advisor that you know what you want to do. Once you get it right at that stage, you can be sure that every other step will be quite easy. So that's why research methodology is quite important. So what are the types of research methodology? In most authors or most researchers, they have classified research methodology into three: quantitative research methodology, qualitative research methodology, and mixed method research methodology. So when we talk about quantitative research methodology, it's the kind of research methodology that involves collection and analysis of numerical data using statistical methods. This kind of research is often used to study cause and effect relationships and to make predictions about the relationship. But it's not only that, quantitative research methodology is also used to describe the sample. And based on the description, you can also make predictions about the population. So that's quantitative. Qualitative research, on the other hand, is a research methodology that involves collection and analysis of non-numerical data, such as words, images, and observations. This type of research is often used to explore the complex phenomena and to gain an in-depth understanding of a particular topic or to generate hypotheses. In research, we say not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. So that's why qualitative research is also important. So it may not involve data, but it counts. So we must know that as a researcher, it's not everything that counts that can be counted. There are some things that you cannot count, but they are very important in research. When you are looking at people's feelings, you may not be able to measure it, but they count. You may look at images, you may not be able to count, to attach figures to it, but they matter a lot. You can also observe behavior. You may not be able to count the behavior, but the behavior is important in issues in the society. So that's why we say not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. So mixed method research methodology combines elements of quantitative and qualitative research. This approach can be particularly useful for studies that aim to explore complex phenomena and to provide a comprehensive understanding of a particular topic. So mixed method is also a kind of research methodology. However, many students, when you ask them what kind of research methodology they want to use, they will say mixed method. Whereas what they mean is mixed source of data. Some of them want to use published data and questionnaire, and they refer to it as mixed method. That one is not mixed method of research methodology. It's just mixed method of data source. So we have to distinguish between data source and research methodology. So now we are going to take each of these research methodology, one by one. So I'm going to spend time on quantitative and qualitative. For mixed method, since we said it's a combination of quantitative and qualitative, we will not bother much on that. So we are going to spend time explaining what is meant by quantitative research methodology, what are the means of collecting data, and what are the appropriate analytical tools that can be used for each of these methods. So let's take quantitative research methodology. Can you hear me? Are we together?
Yes, yeah.
Yes,
we are together, man.
Yes, ma'am.
We are with you, man.
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am.
with you, ma'am.
Okay. So when we talk about method of collecting data in quantitative research methodology, you can collect data through experiments, especially for those in science. They carry out experiments, they document their results. So that is one way of collecting data in quantitative research methodology. You can also carry out controlled observations. You observe, but you control it. You can have two sets of children. Some you give breakfast or you give snacks to them. The other one you don't give snacks, and you see the way they behave. It's a control observation. You can also carry out a survey through questionnaire, through mobile survey, whatever. You can carry out longitudinal studies. Longitudinal studies means you study a particular phenomena over a period of time. You can study somebody every day. This person is going to office. You want to see how many hours it takes the person to get to office every day. It's a longitudinal study. You can carry out polls. You can carry out telephone interviews. You can carry out face-to-face interviews. And you can also use published data. For example, in Nigeria, you can get your published data from National Bureau of Statistics, Central Bank of Nigeria, World Development Indicator, World Table, the Nigerian Stock Exchange, all forms of published data. So you can collect your data for quantitative research methodology from all these sources and many more. So, but after collecting your data, how do you analyze those data under quantitative research? Like we said, for quantitative research methodology, you can describe, you can use the data you obtain to describe. You describe the characteristics of your sample. From the description, you can carry out inferential analysis. Because when we are carrying out data, especially for quantitative research, we have what we call the sample and we have what we call the population. So you obtain information from the sample because you cannot reach all the population. You now describe the samples. From the description, you get the data from the sample to infer about the population. So basically, there are two major statistics that you...
Prof, you have about 15 minutes. So
okay. So you have about two types of statistics: descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. Under descriptives, you can use mean, median, mode, percentage, frequency, and range. Under inferential statistics are meant to make inferences about the population. So you can also use it to describe relationship between variables. You can use it to predict differences between groups. So the statistics you can use here include t-test, ANOVA, correlation, regression, all sorts of regressions. So now coming to qualitative research methodology. Qualitative research methodology, as we have said, has to do with you not using numbers. So there are various methodology here. You have case study, where you do an in-depth examination of a particular case or small number of cases. For example, you can study the administration of university using LASU. You can do an in-depth study about LASU from inception to date. That could be a case study. You have action research methodology. This involves collaborative process between researchers and practitioners. So you can carry out a research in conjunction with teachers in a particular school or teachers in a state. You can also carry out what we call experimental research methodology. So here you try to manipulate one or more independent variables to observe their effects on a dependent variable. This is still under, you can do it under qualitative, just as you have experiments under quantitative. You have survey research methodology also under qualitative, where you involve the collection of data from a sample of individual using interview, questionnaire. But in this case, you are studying attitude, opinion, behavior, which is different from the other survey, our questionnaire, where you ask for data which are measured in figures. Here you are looking at opinion, behavior, attitude. You also have what we call the grounded theory research methodology. Here it involves the development of theories based on the data collected during the research process. Here you are trying to formulate a theory based on the data that you have collected. It's mostly used in sociology and anthropology, and they use it to generate theories about social phenomena. So can you move to the next slide? So now, what inform our choice of research methodology? We have seen qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method. How do we choose? What will guide us in the choice of research methodology? Once you understand the different research methodology that is available, the applicability, the advantages and disadvantages, then you'll be able to make an informed decision. Your choice of research methodology must align with your scope of study and your research objectives. Many students miss their way here. They will have a particular objective, but they will choose a wrong research methodology. Your research methodology must align with your objective, your research question. Your methodology should be able to answer your research question. Also, the methodology that you choose must allow you to complete your project within the stipulated time and within the available resources. If you are a PhD, you are a master's student, and you know you have to complete your research within 6 months, and you now say you want to do longitudinal survey that will take you about 2 years to gather the data, that methodology will surely be at variance with what you are doing. Also, your research methodology must align with the norms in your area of study. You must know the common methodology that is used in your area of study, and you try and align with what is used. It does not mean you cannot go outside the convention in your area of study, but you have to justify that deviation. Otherwise, stick with what is used in your area of study. It allows you to be able to stand on the shoulder of giants so that you can learn from them. So I summarize what informs our choice as the nature of our research, the aims, objective, and our research questions. 2 is our methodological approach that is already taken in the existing literature. What are people doing? People that have the same objective or similar objective with me. What methodology are they using? Then also practicalities and the constraints that are facing you. What is practical? Sometimes you have to make a choice between what is theoretically right and what is practical. So there is always a trade-off between what is best and what is practical. Something has to give in sometimes. What is best may not be practical. So if what is best is not practical, then you go to the next best. So you must be able to look for what can work for you. So you have to look at the nature of your research. Is your research exploratory? Is it confirmatory, or is it a mix of both? So your objective, your research question will determine whether it is exploratory, confirmatory, or what. And this will guide you in your research methodology. Also, methodological approach that has been taken over time. See what has been done. Evaluate their merits within your context. Can you use it? If you are not using what others have used, what is the justification? So it means you have to read work that has been done in your field to familiarize yourself with the common research methodologies. Also, you have to review existing literature. And when you are reviewing existing literature, you have to bear in mind your objective. What is your objective? What is your aim? What are your research questions? So don't fall into adopting a methodological norm of other studies just because this is popular. No. Sometimes what is popular may not be right. So you have to make sure that you get what is relevant for you. Then practicalities. Practicalities is what is practical, given the constraints that you have. And these constraints are listed about 5. Data access, time, money, equipment, and software. Then your knowledge and skills. Data access. The methodology you want to adopt, are you sure it will give you the data you require? If you say, I want to interview people, how many people will you be able to interview? Are you sure you'll be able to get people to interview? Will they agree to be interviewed? Like a student of mine who wants to work on health insurance, she needed those people that are already into health insurance. And the question is, will those people allow themselves to be interviewed if you go to hospital and you get them? Will they spend time to fill questionnaire for you? If they will not, then it means that method will not work for you. It will not give you the necessary data. If you want to undertake quantitative approach using survey, you must consider how many responses will you get. Will that response be statistically significant to give you the result you need? So you have to think carefully about what data you will need to access, how much data you need, and how will you collect the data. It will not make it for you to spend so much time, money, and not be able to get the data that you require. So it is important you think about data access. Then time, I've mentioned that before. Will you have the time to be able to get the data you need if you want to use this methodology? So you have to marry the methodology with the available time for you. So if the time will not permit you, then you choose methodology that time will permit you to use. So time constraint is important. Also money. Money is also an important constraint that you require. If you don't have the money, try to live or to do a research that will be within your budget. Some of the costs that you are likely to incur involve software costs. For example, if you want to do questionnaire, you may have to subscribe to Monkey Survey. There are many other surveys that you have to pay for. Survey, sometimes they have to host it for some time for you. You pay for it. Can you pay? Promotion cost. Sometimes you have to advertise the survey to be able to attract respondents. Incentive. Sometimes you have to give incentive to your respondents. I remember a research we carried out. We packaged some little things for people to be able to fill our questionnaire. So if you don't have the money, you may not be able to carry out such a research. Experiment rental cost, e.g., you may have to record. You may need camera. If you don't have camera, lab equipment. Some people go and carry out their research even outside the country because the lab equipment is not available in Nigeria. What about the travel cost, the food and beverages? All these things have to be considered. They involve money. So your methodology should be the one that you can afford. Then equipment and software. The software that you are going to use to analyze your results, do you have it? So if you use some methodology, they may require specific equipment. So if you don't have the equipment and the software, you may not, it may hamper or it may constrain the kind of methodology you will use. So look at it. Do you have the software? Constraint number 5, your knowledge and skill sets. This is a big one. Research involves a lot of learning and development along the way. As we are researching, you should be learning new things. You are going to accrue knowledge and skill over time. However, when you are considering your methodological option, you should consider your current state of knowledge about research, about methodology. Are you the type that is very, very familiar with numbers? Or are you a word person? Some people, once they see data like this, they don't like to see it. They are frightened. Whereas if they ask them to analyze words, they are very comfortable. So you have to look at your strengths. How much do you know about the analysis method you want to use? How much do you know about the software? If you talk about eView, Stata, SPSS, which one do you think you know? Are you excited to learn new things? Some people, they may not know how to use eViews, but as they go on in their research, they learn it and they're able to apply it. Are you ready? Do you have time to learn new things? Answering all these questions, honestly, will allow you to choose a particular research methodology that will be appropriate for you. So, but if you are lazy, you are not ready to learn, or you are the type that is frightened by figures, you have to be careful of the kind of research methodology you choose. In conclusion, research methodology is important in academic research because it helps us to clear our thoughts about what we want to do. It also ensures the validity of our results, among other things. It gives credence to our output. So when you have robust research methodology, your results will surely be robust and it will be reliable. But choosing appropriate research methodology requires understanding your research objective and your research question. And you have to be familiar with prevalent research methodologies in your field of studies. Though you don't have to just follow others, but you can lean on the shoulders of giants to be able to also have a robust methodology. But you have to bear in mind the various constraints that faces you as a researcher. So these constraints will serve as practical limitations in the choice of your research methodology. So I thank everyone for listening. Thank you.
Jazakallah khairan, Professor Yaqub. Thank you very much for this robust discussion. Alhamdulillah, we appreciate you and we appreciate your effort. I'm very sure that if we have more time, you would have spent more time in explaining this. And before I move to the question, I just want to apologize for my network. I know it has been terrible and I've been going on and off. So in case you want to listen to this again, I posted the YouTube link for this discussion and all our previous discussion. You can turn on notification on the YouTube or subscribe. So in case you are not available for any of our subsequent discussion, you can get notification when it is on YouTube and you can listen to it at your convenience. So in summary, I would I'll just give a brief summary because of time. Professor Yaqub has explained the different type of research methodology that is available for all academic research. But apart from the different types of research methodology, one thing that is important is understanding what each methodology entails and knowing what you need to think about before you decide on which methodology to choose. And one thing I also want to take note of is that there is no particular methodology that is more important than the other. In science, I've seen research work that do quantitative, and at the same time, I've seen qualitative research methodology. So it depends on the three. She summarized the three things you need to know to inform your choice of research methodology, which is the nature of your research, the methodological approach taken in existing literature, and practicalities and conclusion. And the third one is very important, especially when you are doing research in Nigeria. It's important for everyone, but it's something that we need to look at critically when we are doing our research in Nigeria, because there may be a lot of constraints that might make you decide on choosing a specific type of methodology or the other. And whichever methodology that we pick, there is actually no easy, this is the easiest type, this is the most difficult type. Whichever one, you still need to go to literature, you need to do your research, you need to study what existing literature is about. So there's no, okay, this is the fastest, this is the simplest research methodology for it. It just has to do with the nature of your work that informs your decision on the research methodology. So once again, Jazakallah khairan, Professor Jameelah. And I think we have a few questions. Larry is raising up his hand. Larry, you can go on with your question.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I have two questions for you, ma. Thanks for the
Okay.
presentation. So my first question is about the qualitative and quantitative research methodology. I saw that both have survey under it. So I want to ask, which instance do we select? Like, if I have a survey now and I need to analyze it, is it going to fall under qualitative or under quantitative analysis? The second question is about ethical clearance. I think you didn't mention about that. Could you help us like shed light on the instance of ethical clearance and when we use it and when we don't need it?
Okay. So can I take it?
Yes,
okay.
you can.
Okay,
And
thank
before
you.
that, you can, because of time, you can send your question on the chat box. So we won't waste time with asking questions. Yeah, please go on.
Okay, thank you. So survey could be quantitative or qualitative. It depends on what you are surveying. I can survey the market for price of commodities. You know, price is in figure. So it's going to be quantitative in that way. I can also carry out a survey of the behavior of people. How do they behave? That will be qualitative. So both are surveys, but one is quantitative, one is qualitative. So it's the kind of data or information that we extract that will tell us whether it is quantitative or qualitative. Just like experiments. Some experiments can be quantitative, whereas some can be qualitative. For example, somebody that carries out experiments in the lab, putting ethanol and whatever, surely it is quantitative because it's going to get some data as responses. Whereas somebody can also carry out experiments among school children, like the instance I gave. I gave particular set of students snacks in the morning. The other students, I didn't give them snacks. How do they respond? One may be sleeping in the class and not listening. The other one may be active in the class. My response is sleeping and active. They are not figures. So you can use survey experiment to do both qualitative and quantitative research, depending on the outcome depending on the data you extract. So that is what makes it quantitative or qualitative. Then the second question is on ethical clearance or ethical, yes. Ethical clearance is important in research. And in fact, in most researches, whether you are carrying out qualitative or quantitative, you need ethical clearance. But ethical clearance is more important for extraction of data that have to do with people or with animals, living things generally, even with environment. Because when we talk about issue of ethical clearance, you don't want to be harmed, and you don't want to harm your respondents, neither do you want to harm the environment. So you need to obtain ethical clearance. So for most researchers now, they hammer much on ethical clearance. At least you must show that no harm will be caused to anybody as a result of your research. So ethical clearance is an important part of your methodology. You have to state it under your methodology that you are not going to cause harm to anybody. And if you need to get an ethical certificate or clearance from a particular body, you clearly state it there. In fact, some journals will not publish your work without citing your ethical clearance. So ethical clearance also ensure that you follow correct procedures in carrying out your research. I hope I answer your question, Larry.
Yes, ma. Please, can I quickly chip in this? So, ma, if now I have a data now that requires both quantitative and qualitative analysis, then it has to be a mixed method I'm using. If I'm correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you for the response. Is there any other question? Abibat, you can type your question, but if you want to ask, it's fine also. You can unmute yourself and ask. Okay, she has typed a question. She said, you said academic research is to solve a problem, but I carried out a research to identify if there is a problem. Does that mean it's not an academic research?
Thank you. That's an interesting one. You carried out a research to find out if there is a problem, but something must have motivated the research. You must have observed something that motivated the research. So, which will likely be like a perceived problem. So, sometimes we say research can be descriptive. It can even be explorative. You want to explore. You want to see what are the different types of students that we have in Lagos State University. It's not that there's a problem, but definitely for seeing or for trying to study what kind of students are in Lagos State University, I have something in my head that students are not the same. Some of them are this, some of them are that. So I want to carry out a research to actually classify or to identify the different types of students that are in school. So obviously there is a problem, but that problem may not be problem as we see it. It may not be something bad. It may not be an adverse situation. But when we say problem in research, it's not really something bad, but it's something that you want to investigate. You want to know about it. That's a problem as far as research is concerned. So it does not mean there's a challenge, but you just want to have knowledge about something. That knowledge that you want to have is what we call problem, research problem. That is what you want to investigate. That's what we call problem.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma, for the response. Ibrahim, you can ask your question, please.
Okay, thank you, Ma. Well done, Prof, for a very wonderful presentation. Actually, my interest is on this issue of ethical clearance, and where I have worries is in the area of a situation whereby you want to go and collect data from the public, and you find it very difficult to get ethical clearance from a certain institution that is saddled with the responsibility of giving the clearance. In this situation, can we depend on the the clearance, the ethical clearance that we're going to get from the respondent, like for instance, in terms of informed consent, either the written or the verbal one. Can we depend on that one to go ahead and collect the data? And if that's the case, can we make use of that informed consent of the respondent while writing an article for publication out of that research?
Okay, thank you. If you are unable to get ethical clearance from an organization, depending on the kind of research you are doing, if you are not giving anybody drug, you are not keeping them in a house, and it's not a medical research, and it does not involve things that can cause harm directly to the respondents, perhaps you just want to give them questionnaire, you can have what informed consent, which they will sign. It's always better they sign, so that in the future, they will not take you up. Because if you rely on verbal consent, they might come up in the future and deny the fact that they gave you that consent. But if you ask them to sign, you just write a short paper telling them that this research is meant to do this and that their confidentiality will be protected, and that no harm will be done to them, and it's not going to cause them any problem. Let them sign that consent form. And you are going to keep the consent form. In fact, you are supposed to keep it for a certain number of period before you destroy them, so that if anybody comes up in the future to say, no, I didn't give you consent, you can always bring up the consent form. Then when you are submitting your paper too, you attach the consent form as an appendix, so that they know that you actually got the consent of your respondent. So it is very, very important that we have the ethical clearance issue. Somebody is asking that what's the best form of research methodology as far as academic research is concerned. I think the whole thing that we have said today is that nobody will dictate the best form of research methodology. It is your objective that will determine it. It is the common methodology in your area, and it is also determined by the constraints that you face as a researcher. Then somebody is also asking, I hope we are still together.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I saw a question where somebody said, can research methodology, can we say it's a compilation of the whole study from background to the study to conclusion? No, research methodology does not get up to conclusion, and it does not take the whole background. Research methodology essentially starts from your research objective. What's your research objective? That is what will guide you. And up to how do you want to do your results? How do you want to analyze your results? When you get your result, what do you want to do with the results? So it is not, you don't have to have carried out the analysis before you write your research methodology. So you do your research methodology even before you go and collect your data, so it cannot be the work. I hope you get what I'm saying.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So somebody is saying, can a 300 level student start seeking for a topic that he or she wants to write to make research on because of the workload? Yes. As a student, even before you even get to the university, or even when you are in 100 level, you might have been perceiving a particular area that you want to do research on. It might be something you notice in your surrounding that is generating interest for you. If it is in line with what you are studying in the school, you can do a research on it. For example, I live in an area where there are so many gamblers. We see many lottery, lotto shops, bet Naija here and there. I can decide to study about betting. What's the impact of betting on the economic condition of people in my area? So a lot of things inform research. Research is about studying the problem in your surrounding and preferring solutions to them. So it doesn't have to be something abstract. We should be concerned about problems that are confronting us as individuals, as a nation. How do we address them? That is what our research should be focusing towards. Somebody is asking, when you are given a particular project, how can you identify primary data or secondary data? Primary data, they are data that you generate by yourself. You search for it. It has not been published by anybody. That's what we call primary data. It could be something that you get through questionnaire or through searching of diary. For example, LASU admits students year in, year out. I may go to LASU and bring out, search for number of students that are admitted on yearly basis for different courses. Those data are already in LASU, but they did not publish it. I'm the one that will be searching their book one by one. Give me admission list for 2020. I write out how many people were admitted for each course. 2021, I do the same. That data is primary data. Whereas secondary data is data that has already been published by a particular body. It could be LASU itself. It could be Central Bank of Nigeria. It could be the Nigerian Engineering Society. If they publish data and I go and use it, it is secondary data. So that's the difference between primary and secondary data.
Okay, Jazakallah khairan, Prof, for discussing this with us and also for the questions and answers. We've had a lot of questions and answers there. Alhamdulillah that you've been able to respond to everything. So without wasting much of our time, we'd like to come to the end of today's discussion. And just like I said before, in case you need to rewatch this or you feel there's someone else that might be interested in listening to this, you can send them the link to the recording and all our previous discussion where we've talked about various topics that are very useful for academic research. We have more than 15 topics that we discussed that have been uploaded on the YouTube page. So you can listen to it at your free time and share it with others also. And with this, we come to the end of this month's discussion. Inshallah, next month we'll be having another important topic that is equally important to us as academic researchers, and that would help us in our academic journey and make it easy for us to do our research. And with that, I'll say that to everybody, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi
wa barakatuh. Good night, ma'am.
Thank you. Good night.
Yes, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Bye.
Jazakumullah.
Yes, ma'am.